Hi there all, we're back again and this time we're looking at sports gear. So we're going to be working with some tricky fabrics, we're going to be working with jersey and lycra, all a bit stretchy but I promise not scary. We're going to go through a whole range of techniques so that you can be confidently joining pieces together, maintaining all that stretch, no popped stitches, I promise. What we're going to be making is a nice comfy pair of leggings. Thinking about sportswear, that kind of thing. We're going to go through two variations. Turn down yoga top, really comfy, good for pyjamas as well. And we're also going to be putting in a piece of elastic. So I'm going to make up two sets of leggings in parallel so I can show you both of those techniques. What we're also going to do is we're going to create our pattern for our leggings as well from our own measurements so we know they're going to fit perfectly as well. It's quite an exciting one this time, so get set and ready. So I'll start by running you through the fabrics I'm going to be using today. I have a lovely pink jersey from my local sewing shop, So Busy, and I've got a black lycra that I actually picked up as a remnant a long time ago in Fabricland. So a couple of different choices there, both very stretchy but slightly different properties. The jersey is a cotton jersey, whereas the lycra is just a synthetic. Whichever of those fabrics you go for, you're going to need about 1.5 meters to make your leggings. So to take some measurements that we need, we are going to want to grab our tape measures, and the very first one we need is our waist measurement. So as you're measuring, keep your head chin up, nice and high, fit the tape measure around your waist, remember not to breathe in, be nice and relaxed. And then once you have the tape measure nicely crossed over where you can feel it sitting comfortably, have a little look down, check what that measurement is, and then write that down. We're also going to want to take a hip measurement, so it's round the very largest part of your hips. Again, head up nicely, put it nice and comfortable round your hips, and then look down, have a little look, and jot that number down as well. We also want to get a measurement for the side leg, all the way down from where we've measured our waist, which can be quite high if you want it to for nice comfy leggings, and we're going to measure all the way down the side of our leg. Now obviously it's a little bit tricky to bend down and get all the way to the ankle, so what I tend to do is hold my tape measure at the hip, then I bend down and hold it at the knee, and then I can swap hands and check where that measurement goes to the ankle. Another measurement we need is the ankle. So we're going to take our tape measure and just very small measure round the ankle and get a measurement there. And then the final one we actually need to sit on a chair for, and we're going to get the rise, which is the depth, the crotch depth. So I'll sit down on my chair, and from where I took my waist measurement, I'm going to measure all the way down to where the chair sits flat. Make a note of all your measurements, working in centimetres, and we'll need a large piece of paper to move on and create your pattern. It can be wrapping paper, brown paper, pattern paper, if you have it, anything that's large enough to make your pattern on. So to create your pattern, you're going to want to begin with that long leg measurement you took down from your waist to your ankle. Draw a long line in the centre of your pattern paper, the same length as that leg length. At the top, take half your waist measurement and centre it along the top of that leg length line. Your ankle measurement, take the full measurement and centre that down at the bottom. Measure down from the waistline the amount of rise you measured. That's the measurement you took when you were sitting on the chair. Make a mark and draw across half your hip measurement.
centred on that line again. Join the ends of all those lines to create a basic shape for your pattern. At the top edge, on one side of the waist, measure up 3 centimetres and then draw a gentle curve, taking it back down to the waistline, meeting at the centre. Add 6 centimetres to your hip line. On the other side, add 4 centimetres to your hip line. We're also going to add hem allowance and a seam allowance at the waist. Down at the ankle, you want 2 centimetres hem allowance, and up at the waist, you want to measure your elastic and add 1.5 centimetres to the width of your elastic. That will be added as a waistband. If you're making the yoga pants, we don't need the elastic, but we will still need just 1.5 centimetres seam allowance. Smooth the curve of the seam allowance you've added at the waistband. Draw a line where you've added the hem allowance at the ankle. And at the front and back of your pattern, where you've added your 6 centimetres and your 4 centimetres, you want to smooth the curve from the end of that hip line back up to the line that joins the waist and the hip. It doesn't need to be a very large curve, only use about 1/4 of the depth you have there. Also, smooth a long curve down from the end of those hip lines all the way down to the end of the ankle. Draw a thick line round those outside edges of your pattern to give you your final pattern shape. For the yoga band, you're going to want to make a rectangle 30 centimetres deep, and the length of that rectangle wants to be half your waist measurement with 2.5 centimetres taken away. Now this piece of the pattern will be cut on a fold, so mark at one edge of that pattern, one of the 30 centimetre edges, to remind you to cut on the fold. So now you have your complete pattern. For the elasticated waist, you'll just have one pattern piece, and for the yoga band leggings, you will have 2 pattern pieces.
So once I've created my pattern, what I've done is I've cut out black lycra for my leggings that I'm going to use with an elasticated waist. So I've got my elastic here and I've got my black pieces for those leggings. And I've also cut out pieces for my pink leggings, and my pink leggings are going to be the one with the yoga band on top. So I've got both of those sorted out. The black lycra ones I'm going to come back to, so I'm just going to set those to one side for a while. And it's the pink ones that I'm going to start to work with. So before doing anything with the fabric that I've cut out, what I'm going to do is set up the machine and just have a little look at how the machine performs with the stretchy fabric. When you're sewing stretchy fabric on a sewing machine, you want to use a zigzag stitch instead of a straight stitch. Now some machines, they have a zigzag stitch that's meant for stretch fabric. It's like a little lightning bolt. Now I'd add a little health warning on that one. It doesn't suit every single jersey. It may well be that you need to set up your own zigzags instead to make sure that your jersey lays nice and flat as it's coming through the sewing machine. So by all means have a little go with the little stitch that looks like a lightning stitch if it has it on your machine. But if that doesn't quite work out, if you see the fabric going into little undulations instead of laying nice and flat as it comes out the machine, then you can do this alternative that I'm going to take you through now as well. So to set up the machine, we're going to want to grab some offcuts and we're going to want to run them through as samples to see how they join together. I'm going to set the machine up onto a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to start with a width of 1 and a length of 1. So 1 and 1, nice and easy to remember, and that is a really good starting point for joining together jersey on your machine. Pop it onto that setting and start to run a little bit through the machine. You want to keep on going until you've got a good 5 centimetres or so coming out from the back
and you can have a little look at how that fabric is sitting. What you want to see is everything nice and flat. You don't want to see the fabric starting to lump and bump. If you do see that, increase the length of your stitch ever so slightly, and then sew again, and have a little look. Increasing the length of the stitch should mean your fabric lays just a little bit flatter. If you think it could do with a little bit more, increase it just a little bit more and run again. Take it out from underneath the machine. Give it a little stretch as well. Your stitches should keep stretching as much as the fabric will. Now, once you've done that and you've got the stitch that you want for sewing your seams, this is the seams we're talking about at the moment, what you're also going to want to do is tidy up your raw edges as well. Now, with jersey you can get away with simply leaving raw edges inside your garments, and they'll last a while like that. But what I do always suggest is that you overcast the inside as well. Now, that can be done on a nice big zigzag, so a nice wide zigzag about 5 in your width, and the length of the stitch can be 2.5, 3, so quite a long length as well. As we have with some other projects, if you've seen some of the other videos, we're going to trim away some of our seam allowance, so it's about half the size. And then we can run it through the machine on that nice wide zigzag to wrap up the edges. It's worth checking this zigzag as well, just to make sure that it's not going to draw your fabric together either, and that it just gives you a nice neat edge with the raw edges bound. Once we've run those samples, what we're then going to want to do is take our pattern pieces and start to bring them together. Now, the 2 legs are nice and easy. We're going to lay them one on top of the other, right sides together, and the 2 long curved seams that form the front and the back of our leggings, they're going to be sewn together using exactly the same stitch that we've just set up on our machine. What we're also going to do is we're going to take our waistband piece and we're going to put that also right sides together, and we're going to sew across the top of that as well. So we'll start by running the waistband through, and then I'll run those curved seams through as well. Once that seam is sewn, so we've got our front seam and our back seam joined together, what we're going to do is we're going to lay our fabric so that our inside leg seam then matches. So we want to lay them out so our inside legs match all the way from the ankle up to that centre seam. And we'll pop some pins in place, and then all the way once again from our ankle all the way up to that centre seam. We'll pin up and round there, and then it's back underneath the sewing machine, and we'll get them stitched together all the way from one ankle up and over to the other ankle. So back to our small zigzag, and then we'll trim it down and we'll overcast it with our bigger zigzag. So all the way over to the other end, that's all finished. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my leggings through. So very, very quickly with this little project, you get something that immediately looks like a pair of leggings. What we want to do is make sure that we've got a lovely waistband on the top of these leggings. Your waistband will need to be turned so that the right sides are outwards and the 2 raw edges are matching. So it's folded in half, right sides out, and the two raw edges are matching all the way round to create your waistband.
To match that waistband to the top of the leggings, what we're going to want to do is place pins at all 4 quarters of the top of the leggings and of the raw edges of the waistband. And what I'll also do is I'll mark 8ths as well. So I'll put a pin halfway in between those quarters as well. So I'm going to start by marking up the centre of the waistband. So you can use the back seam to guide you, and then fold the whole thing in half so you can get the centre front as well. Fold it over so that those 2 pins are then lying on top of each other, so you can see the next 2 pins will want to go right out at one side to mark another quarter, and right out at the other side to mark the quarter on the other side. And as we're also separating this into 8ths, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go halfway between each pin as well and just pop another pin in, and that'll help me get my waistband pinned onto the top of my leggings so that there's an even stretch between each pin all the way round. So I'm putting another pin in halfway between each of those pins so that we have 8ths marked out on our waistband. What we want to do is do exactly the same to the top of the leggings themselves. So we can mark 2 pins quite easily with the centre front and centre back. With those 2 pins lying right on top of each other, smooth out to either side, and you will find the quarters for either side as well, and we can pop a pin into those. And then again, just like I have on my waistband, I'm going to find the midpoint between those 2 pins as well. Now you can do that by eye, or you can measure up if you really want to. And I'm going to pop a pin there as well. Now all these 8 pins that we're putting into each, the waistband and the leggings, we're then going to match them up. So that final one can go in. And then what I shall do is I'm going to take my waistband and I'm going to put it over my leggings, over the top of my leggings. So the waistband is pointing down towards the bottom of the leggings, and all the raw edges, so the raw edge of the top of the leggings and the 2 raw edges for your waistband are now all together. So you have 1, 2, 3 raw edges. We're then going to take the pins one by one, put one of the pins through all 3 layers and lose the other one. And just keep working round, and you may need to move the fabric slightly. You should have a little less waistband than you do waistline of your leggings. So if you need to move your leggings round a little bit to match the pins on the waistband, that's absolutely fine. Put one on top of the other, remove one pin and put the other pin through all 3 layers, and just keep working round until you have a pin through every layer at each of those 8 points you marked out. What we're then going to do is just the same as we have for the legs and the front and back seam. We're going to stitch with a small zigzag. We're going to clip down the raw edges, and then we're going to stitch with that larger zigzag to hold it all together. Okay, so once all those pins are matched all the way round, now you may well need, as you travel round, to stretch the waistline of the leggings ever so slightly to make sure everything stays nice and flat. Make sure you stretch away all the fabric between each of the pins. Don't let a little bubble of fabric travel forward to the next pin. Always stretch away everything you've got in between the 2 pins as you go round.
So we'll get that sewn in place. It doesn't matter too much where I start or finish because I'm going on a full loop anyway. And we'll get that attached now. So my waistband on my pink leggings is now nicely attached, and what I'm going to do is just move back to our black leggings so that I can show you how to put in that elastic band. Now it's very, very similar. The 8 pins we used for our waistband on the pink leggings, we're going to use exactly the same technique again. Our elastic needs joining together. What I've done is I've got a bit of elastic that is 5 centimetres less than my waistline. So I've measured it up, I've made it 5 centimetres less, so it's got a little bit of stretch to it as it goes around me. And I need to join it, so I'm going to overlap it. I'm going to join it before we put it into the leggings. We're going to overlap it just by a couple of centimetres. We're going to pop a couple of pins just to hold that little overlap. And then again, we're going to set a nice white zigzag on our machine. And I'm just going to go backwards and forwards where those 2 pins are to hold it nicely into place. So I remove the first pin and I'm going to go all the way over, all the way back, and all the way over again. Nice and strong. Once I've done that where one of the pins was, I'm going to do it once again where the other pin was. So backwards and forwards, over that pin. So that's our elastic, nicely joined together. We'll trim away any long threads. We're going to do exactly the same as we did with our waistband for the pink leggings. We're going to mark up centre front and centre back for our elastic. Going to find the quarters, and then mark 8s as well, halfway in between each of those quarter pins. I'm going to take the waistband of my leggings. I'm going to work with these ones inside out, not right sides out. It's a very slight difference. But for the elastic, we'll work with the black leggings inside out. Again, I find my quarters and my 8s. Now, when we measured up to make the pattern for our elasticated waist leggings, we added a 1.5 seam allowance just up at the top to make sure we had enough room to put our elastic in. And what we're going to do is when we pin these 8s together, our elastic is going to go over the top of our waistband. And again, I'm going to start matching the pins 8th to 8th. But this time, I'm also going to just turn the 1.5 centimetres we left extra over the top of that elastic and then put a pin through those layers. And I'm going to work all the way around the waistband, doing that same thing, matching where the pins are, turning over the 1.5 and then pinning through those layers. Once all those pins have been swapped, this is going to be stitched down using a triple zigzag stitch. And again, I will have to stretch my elastic a little to make sure my band lies flat. Now the settings for your triple stitch are a 1 stitch length and a nice wide 5 on stitch width, so it swings right backwards and forwards. And the triple stitch is really lovely for attaching elastic. So once the elastic is on the inside of my waistband, I've turned my leggings through and I'm going to fold it in once more. So from the outside of the leggings now, I'm going to pin all the way round, making sure that that band stays nicely in place. And then I'm going to go over once more with my triple zigzag all the way round to hold the bottom of that elastic in place. So we're not sewing up near the top, we're sewing down near the bottom to hold that elastic into place. Now that I've gone all the way around my waistband, what I'm also going to want to do is finish the hems of my leggings. So to finish the hems of the leggings, on these black ones, I am simply going to turn up the ends of the leggings. I'll pop the box off so that I can fit those ends over, and I'm going to stick with the triple stitch to go all the way round and neatly finish the bottom of these black ones. So that's the ends of the black ones all sorted, and those are ready to have a little try on in a minute. The pink ones I'm going to bring back in now, because what I also wanted to show you today was how to use a twin needle, which is also a really good bit of kit when you're sewing with stretchy fabrics. The waistband of our pink leggings is now on, so they're almost finished, and it just remains to go around the hems. So in the same way as I turned up the black ones, I'm simply going to tuck away about 2 centimetres at the bottom of each of the hems, and then I'm going to set up my machine to use a twin needle. Now, depending on the type of machine you have, you will either have an extra pin that can go on the top of your machine to hold your extra spool of thread, or you will have 2 pins in the first place. I'm going to change this machine to pink thread for my pink leggings. So I have 2 spools of pink thread. I'm going to put both of them up at the top. Once those spools are on, I'm going to take my twin needle out of its little packet and pop it into place where the machine needle would normally go. So it's just like replacing a needle. Once your twin needle is in place, what you want to do is bring one thread down on its own to the twin needle and thread that up. What you then want to do is bring the second thread through exactly the same path as the first and thread that one up. The setting you're going to want to use is just a normal straight stitch, but if you're top stitching, then you want a little bit of a longer length, so you could go up to a 3, maybe a 3.5. Once everything is threaded up, take one of your little pieces that you used earlier to run samples and pop it underneath the machine and run just a little sample to check that everything is working as it should be. Once you've checked it's all working, the box can come off once more, and having folded up just a couple of centimetres of your legging ends, you're going to pop them over the end of the machine, bring the presser foot down, and near the raw edge that's up inside your leggings, just start to stitch round. Now it's a good idea to stretch the fabric as you go. Chances are, having popped the end of your leggings over the end of the sewing machine there, it will already be a little bit stretched. So just help it round, maintaining a little bit of that stretch, but make sure it can still move nicely. And then we'll have a lovely twin needle finish all the way around the bottom of our leggings. Still just as stretchy as it needs to be, but with a twin needle finish. So there you go. We've made a couple of different variations, 2 different sets of leggings. We've got the black ones with the triple stitching, the elasticated waist and the triple stitching round the hem. And we've got the pink ones with that lovely softy yoga style waistband
and twin needle round the hem. We've done loads and loads of techniques today. I really hope it's going to see you through any kind of stretch project you might have. These leggings are a nice simple place to start, but once you've mastered those, you really can take that anywhere. So I really hope you've enjoyed the tutorial today, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.